Hi there, I'm Grant and I'm enjoying a fantastic pasta with authentic Italian Bolognese sauce. It's amazing. Would you like to know how to make it? I'm going to show you how. Alright, we are making some authentic Italian Bolognese sauce. And if you've tasted Bolognese, you know it is the best Italian pasta sauce going. What we start with is what we call in Italy a soffritto, and it's the basis for many dishes. And it's three things. It's diced and minced carrot, diced minced onion, and in this case 2 stalks of celery. Now I always go with minced garlic in a Bolognese sauce because I love it. It's optional, but I wouldn't go without minced garlic. So I've got 4 or 5 cloves here. They're minced. I'm going to get started with the carrot. Carrots can be a little bit of a challenge. I always use a big kind of cleaver knife. It's nice and sharp, but it just lets you get into that carrot pile a little bit easier, because it takes a little bit of effort to mince the carrots, and you do want them minced fairly fine. Oh, the onions go a little bit easier. You may have a food processor, food chopper, something like that. Make this a lot easier, but I always chop manually. I kind of enjoy the process. And then we've got our celery, our last part of the soffritto. And the celery goes relatively easier. It's a little bit harder than the onion, so it's a little bit more work, but not as hard as the carrot. Okay, so there we have our soffritto. Celery, onion, carrot, and my optional minced garlic. So you can see that everything is chopped finely, and we are ready to go to the next step. Okay, there's one more ingredient to tell you about. It's an important one. I consider it the magic one for Bolognese sauce. This is pancetta bacon, and it makes a Bolognese sauce authentic and beautiful. Really tasty. You really want pancetta bacon for your Bolognese sauce. I was lucky enough to find this already diced in a package, 125 grams, that's what this is. And that's about what you need. I was lucky this came diced. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller pieces. You don't want it fine, but you do want it in smaller pieces. So we're going to get started sauteing. We're going to get this Bolognese sauce on the go. So this is about the right size pot. You can use whatever you like, but don't use anything too small. Otherwise you're going to be overflowing. I'm going to go to medium heat, and the first thing that I'm going to do is throw some butter in. The butter is about 1/4 cup. I'm doing this by eye, and truthfully I probably do a little bit more than I have to. You also want some olive oil, and I'll go with 2 tablespoons added to that butter, and we're going to wait for that to melt, and we are going to start sauteing our vegetables. Okay, we're melted, and we're going to put in our vegetables. Okay, we have thrown in our soffritto, and you'll remember that the soffritto, carrots, celery, onions. I'm going to saute these vegetables until they're soft. It usually takes about 5 minutes or so. As I get towards the end of the 5 minutes, maybe at about 4 minutes, I'm going to add the minced garlic. This kitchen is filling up with amazing aromas. There's nothing like a sofrito sautéing, or in France they call it a mirepoix. Now I'm going to throw in the garlic. Now the next step is to add that pancetta that I talked about. Here it is right here. I'm going to throw that in there. Alright. Usually takes about 10 minutes, but what you're after here is to get that pancetta. You eyeball it and you wait till it's starting to look golden. That's when you know you're ready to move to the next step. Alright, we are ready for our next step, and that is to add our meat. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the meat in thirds. That's important because we need the liquid to evaporate, and for the meat to caramelize properly, you can't throw it all in there at once. So what we're using here is a combination of lean ground beef and Italian sausage. Now some people prefer to use veal, and some people will just use a combination of beef and pork. Some people just use beef. So whatever your preference. I like Italian sausage and beef. I find that gives my Bolognese the taste that I'm looking for. You're going to find some sticking to the bottom of the pan, and that's okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to deglaze it with white wine later, which is a key part of the process to make this Bolognese sauce. When you've got that first batch completely browned, you can go ahead and add the second batch. Alright. This meat is sufficiently browned that we can add our last third of meat. Lean ground beef, Italian sausage. Alright, we've got all our lean ground beef and all our Italian sausage added at this point. We added it third by third, so that took care of a lot of the evaporation from the meat cooking. The meat's still a little bit moist. What we're going to do is we are now going to let it cook. And it sounds counterintuitive, but what we want to do actually is let the meat get crispy, get golden, stick to the bottom of the pan. If you can see it, you can see that we've got things sticking to the bottom of the pan, and that is exactly what we want. We want that caramelization going on. Alright. We're going to do a little bit of deglazing now. What we do for that is white wine. You can use any white wine really. The drier the better, really. Chardonnay or something like that. That's a cup of white wine. Let the wine evaporate. And you'll see that all that caramelization on the bottom of the pan is incorporated into the meat sauce now. And now we are on to some final steps. Now Bolognese, keep in mind, is a heavy meat sauce. It is not a typical really red meat sauce that you would see in North America. This is the Italian version. But 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes, And here we go. This is what makes bolognese bolognese. 2 cups of milk. Now you can use 2%. I use 3.25%, which is a little bit thicker milk. Don't use cream. You can't do that. But you have to use milk. But 3% or 3.25% milk, perfect. Stir it in. So you're gonna grind in some pepper. Gonna grind in some salt as well. I'm gonna stir it in. Now what you do, turn your heat up to high. We're gonna bring it to a boil, and then we're gonna bring it right down to the lowest setting. So a simmer. And it's gonna cook for a long time, minimum 2 hours for bolognese. I have brought it to the high heat, got a little bit of a boil. I brought it right back down, and now this baby's gonna simmer. So what I'll do, I'll partially cover. You don't want to cover it completely. In 2 hours, 3 hours, however long you want to cook it, it's going to be fantastic. The bolognese sauce has been simmering for about 3 hours. I could let it go for a little bit longer, maybe even 4 hours, but I'm getting hungry, so I am going to get the pasta on the go. I'm going to dish up soon. Pasta for bolognese. You want a good solid noodle that heavy meat sauce will coat nicely. I can tell you what I recommend. This is what I look for in the store. It's called tagliatelle. Looks like this. And if you can find it, use tagliatelle. It's perfect for bolognese. But if you don't have it, fettuccine will work, linguine will work. Some people like spaghetti bolognese. But I prefer tagliatelle or something that is broad. I've also used penne in the past, which is kind of nice because what happens is that tasty bolognese not only coats the noodle, but it gets inside the penne. Okay, the pasta's in. Alright, so I've drained my pasta, and call this a personal preference, but what I do is I put my pasta into the pot, and then what I do is I add my bolognese sauce to the noodles. You can see I'm being very generous. And I mix it up so that the noodles are completely coated. Alright, so here we go. Now, what I'll do is add some cheese. Now, the ideal is to have some fresh grated Parmigiano Reggiano. I don't have that. I've got some Parmesan. I'm going to put that on. So there you have it, folks. That's the authentic Italian bolognese sauce. As a matter of fact, I found this recipe a few years ago. It's registered in the town of Bologna, Italy, which is the birthplace of bolognese sauce, apparently.